They called a family meeting about the house. They sat around the dining table, my father at the head, my brother Troy beside him, arms crossed, matching smirks. They had agendas. They had opinions. They had plans for what to do with the property. There was just one problem. Nobody in that room owned it except me. My name is Simone. I'm 31 years old. And for 12 straight years, I was the invisible engine of my family. The cook, the cleaner, the checkbook, the crisis manager. While my father sat in his recliner and my brother lived rent-free in the basement. I paid $14,000 to save this house from a county tax auction. I paid $6,800 to replace the furnace in January. I paid $11,000 to fix the roof over my brother's head. $31,800 of my money. My savings. My catering business. My personal loans. And not once, not a single time, did either of them say thank you. So when my father leaned in the doorway on December 22nd, grinning like he was placing a lunch order, and said, "Your brother's 25 friends are spending Christmas here. You've done this 100 times, Mona." I smiled. I said, "Sure, Dad. I'll handle it." And that night, I drove to the airport, boarded a red-eye, and flew to Maui. What happened when 25 people walked into an empty kitchen on a Christmas morning, and what my Aunt Ruth said in front of all of them, changed my family forever. Stay with me. Because this story is about more than one empty kitchen. It's about 3 generations of women who cooked for free, a grandmother's secret notebook that nobody was supposed to find, and the moment one family finally had to sit with the silence they had been filling with someone else's labour for decades. Let me tell you who these people actually were. My father, Ray, 63 years old, retired early from a manufacturing warehouse. His daily routine was a recliner, a remote control, and opinions about how other people should spend their time. The man had not boiled water since 1987. Not an exaggeration, verified fact. My brother Troy, 34 years old, sold cars at a dealership on Route 9, lived in my parents' basement rent-free for 6 years, spent his commission checks on a leased truck and weekend bar tabs, had not cooked a meal in longer than anyone could remember. And me, Simone, bookkeeper by day, co-owner of Brandt Kitchen LLC by side hustle. I had built a real catering business with my partner Nora, 4 recurring contracts, a commercial stand mixer on my kitchen counter like a chrome trophy. The first thing in my adult life that was completely, entirely mine. But every November, like a tax bill you cannot escape, my phone would ring, and the 40 minutes between my apartment and my parents' house would shrink to nothing. Here is what 12 years of family comes first actually looked like on paper. I started cooking holiday meals at age 14. Troy was 17. He was upstairs playing video games. Nobody asked him to peel a single potato. Not once. 3 years ago I found out my father had fallen behind on property taxes. $14,000. I took a personal loan and paid it. Ray never mentioned repayment. Not once. The furnace died in January 2 years ago. I drove up at midnight with a space heater and a checkbook. $6,800. Gone. Last year, the roof leaked directly into Troy's basement bedroom. $11,000. I wrote the check so my brother would not have to sleep with a bucket next to his bed. $31,800. And Troy's contribution to this household, he called it the venue. I am not joking. When I asked him what he was contributing to this Christmas party he was throwing for 25 people, he spread his arms wide, gestured around the kitchen, and said, "I'm providing the venue." The venue, the house my money had saved from the county auction, the furnace I replaced, the roof I fixed. He was providing the venue the way a man takes credit for the sunrise. My father sent me to the attic to find the old roasting pans, cold up there. One bare bulb on a pull chain, boxes everywhere labelled in my mother's handwriting. Ornaments, Troy's trophies, tablecloths. I found the roasting pans, and behind them, wedged against the wall, was a small green tin box, rusted at the corners, lid stamped with 2 words, June's Kitchen. June was my grandmother. I pried it open. Inside was a notebook, small dark green cover, rubber band around it. The rubber band snapped the moment I touched it. I opened the first page. My grandmother's handwriting, small even, slightly slanted, columns across every page. Date, event, guest count, dishes cooked, and at the end of every single row, a dollar amount. Thanksgiving 1972. 18 guests. Turkey, 4 sides, 2 pies. $45. Easter 1978. 12 guests. Ham, scalloped potatoes, rolls. $32. Christmas 1985. 22 guests. Ham, prime rib, 6 sides, 3 desserts. $112. Page after page, year after year. 3 decades of holiday meals logged in pencil, like a second set of accounting books that nobody was supposed to find. The last entry was at the bottom of the final page. Christmas 2003. 16 guests. Everything. $340. She died in March 2004. And below that last entry, underlined once, were 6 words. 187 meals. No one ever asked how much. I sat on that attic floor in the cold and I held that notebook against my chest. My grandmother had counted for 36 years. She wrote it down because she knew no one else would remember. Because counting was the only rebellion she allowed herself. One margin note from 1991 stopped me completely. R didn't come to the kitchen once. R, my father. 30 years ago. Same man, same recliner. Different decade. I was looking at a generational blueprint. June cooked and counted in silence. My mother Deborah cooked and endured in silence. And I had been standing at that same counter since I was 14 years old, repeating the pattern so faithfully that my brother genuinely believed I enjoyed it. I tucked the notebook into my bag, carried the roasting pans downstairs, set them on the counter. My father had not moved from the recliner. That night I heard Troy on the phone with his friend. His voice carried through the wall the way it always did, loud, unbothered. "Nah, man, you don't have to bring food. My sister handles all that." A pause. His friend said something I could not hear. Troy laughed. "She likes cooking. She's good at it." I sat on the edge of the guest bed and pressed my palms flat on the quilt. No rage, something colder, something finished. I opened my laptop. One-way ticket. Columbus to Maui. December 24th. Red Eye. $462. I entered my card number without hesitating. Closed the laptop. Lay back on the quilt and stared at the ceiling. The ceiling I'd paid $11,000 to keep from caving in. Troy was still laughing downstairs. He had absolutely no idea what was coming. Christmas morning, 7 a.m. Ohio, my mother Deborah walked into the kitchen to start prep. She opened the pantry. Flour, sugar, half-empty bag of rice, leftover meatloaf, a jar of pickles, no turkey, no ham, no cranberries, no butter, no cream, no potatoes. She walked to the garage and unlocked the side door, the shelves where the chafing dishes lived. Empty, the hooks where the carving station tools hung. Bare, the corner where my commercial stand mixer sat like a chrome landmark every single holiday for 6 years. Gone. My business partner Nora had loaded everything at 10 p.m, the night before while my family slept. Every piece of equipment belonged to Brandt Kitchen, LLC. My money, my business, my property. I had simply recovered it. Deborah stood in that garage for a full minute. Then she went inside and found my letter under the salt shaker on the kitchen counter. Face down, my handwriting on the front. Just 2 words. Just Dad. She read it anyway. Dad, I have cooked 144 holiday meals for this family in the last 12 years. I will not cook meal 145. The equipment in the garage belongs to Brandt Kitchen LLC. My business, it has been retrieved. I have also cancelled the wholesale grocery order placed under my business account. Merry Christmas. Simone. Deborah read it twice. She did not cry. She did not shout. She folded it carefully and slipped it into her apron pocket. Then she went and woke my father. Ray stormed into the kitchen in his bathrobe and slippers, yanked the fridge open. Eggs, ketchup, pickles. He spun around like a man who had lost something he could not name. Troy appeared on the basement stairs, hair flat on one side, gym shorts, half asleep. Then the colour drained from his face. Melanie's coming today. Her parents are coming. Troy grabbed his keys and drove to the grocery store in gym shorts and a coat thrown over his sleep shirt. He begged the store manager for a bulk order: turkey, ham, sides, desserts for 30 people. The manager shook his head. "It's Christmas Eve, son. Trucks already ran. Can't get that quantity." Troy tried 2 catering companies, both booked through New Year's. One receptionist actually laughed at him. He tried online grocery delivery. Earliest slot December 27th. Rural Ohio does not bend for panic. Troy came home with 8 rotisserie chickens from the deli, 4 bags of frozen mashed potatoes, 2 cans of cranberry sauce still shaped like the tin, a plastic clamshell fruit salad, and 2 grocery store pumpkin pies. $382 on his credit card. The first money he had spent on this household in 3 years. Ray looked at it spread across the counter and said, "That's not Christmas dinner. That's a gas station buffet." Troy stiffened. "It's the best I could do in 6 hours." Ray's voice went hard. "Your sister could have done it in 3. The room went silent. Ray did not realize what he had just said, that even while furious at me for leaving, his first instinct was to measure his son against his daughter, and Troy heard every word of it. By noon, the guests started arriving. Troy's friends, his college buddies, his softball league. Then at 12:10, the front door opened, and in walked Melanie Harding. Green dress, clearly chosen for the occasion. Behind her, her parents. Jean in a pressed blazer, Linda in a cashmere scarf. They walked into the living room and saw a bedsheet tablecloth, paper plates, unevenly sliced rotisserie chicken on a cutting board, canned cranberry sauce still wearing the shape of the tin. Linda Harding's eyebrow rose exactly 1/4 of an inch. Melanie leaned close to Troy and whispered, "I thought your sister was cooking." Then somebody's phone changed everything. I had posted one photo on Facebook from Maui, my hand holding a coffee cup, the Pacific stretching blue behind it. Caption: "Merry Christmas from Maui." First holiday in 12 years I didn't spend in someone else's kitchen. Melanie's friend saw it first, screenshotted it, texted Melanie immediately. "Isn't that Troy's sister? I thought she was sick." Melanie showed the screen to Troy. Jean Harding leaned over and read the caption out loud, the way a man reads a contract clause he wants the entire room to hear. First holiday in 12 years I didn't spend in someone else's kitchen. The room went completely silent. Not movie silent. Real silent. The kind where you hear the furnace kick on and someone swallow. And that is exactly when Aunt Ruth set her coffee cup down. The ceramic base hit the side table with one small precise sound. Every head in the room turned. Ruth stood up. Ruth did not shout. She spoke the way someone speaks at a graveside. Measured. Deliberate. Like every word had been weighed before it left her mouth. She looked around the room. 25 guests. Paper plates. Aluminum foil pans. A bedsheet on the dining table. Simone has cooked Christmas dinner for this family every year since she was 19 years old. Before that, our mother June did it for 36 years. Before that, our grandmother. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper, a photograph of the notebook's last page, the one I had texted her the night I left. She unfolded it and laid it flat on the coffee table where everyone could see it. Penciled rows of dates, guest counts, dollar amounts. 36 years of invisible labour documented in a dead woman's handwriting. Our mother kept a record. Every holiday meal she cooked from 1967 to 2003. Every guest. Every dollar it would have cost to hire someone to do what she did for nothing. She tapped the paper once with one finger. 187 meals. No one ever asked how much. Linda Harding put her fork down. Jean Harding uncrossed his arms. One of Troy's friends looked at the floor. Ruth continued without pausing. Simone would have been meal number 188. She decided she would be the last. Ray stepped forward, neck red, voice rising. "Ruth, this is a family matter." It stopped being a family matter when you invited 25 strangers to eat food your daughter was going to cook for free. She looked at him the way only an older sister can, completely unimpressed. "It's only 25 people, right, Ray? That's what you told her." Then she turned to Troy. 3 years ago, this house was 60 days from a county tax auction. Do you know who paid the $14,000 to stop it? Troy blinked. Dad handled that. Simone handled it. Personal loan paid in full. Your father has not repaid a single dollar. The room was so still you could hear the furnace running. The furnace. $6,800. Simone. The roof over your basement bedroom. $11,000. Simone. $31,800 to keep this roof above your heads. And 2 days ago your father looked his daughter in the eye and told her to cook for 25 people, like she was the help. Ray exploded. He slammed both hands flat on the dining table. Paper plates jumped. His voice filled the room like it had filled warehouse floors for 26 years. You come into my house on Christmas and humiliate me in front of everyone. Ruth did not flinch. She stood 5 feet from him, with her hands clasped quietly in front of her. This house was 60 days from not being your house, Ray. Simone made sure you still have a door to slam. Ray pointed at her with a trembling finger. Get out. I'll leave when I'm finished. The finger stayed in the air, but the voice behind it had cracked. Gene Harding stood up, put his hand on Melanie's shoulder. We're leaving. Melanie looked at Troy one last time. Troy could not meet her eyes. They walked out without saying goodbye. Guests left in small, quiet groups, the way people leave a room where something has broken. Mrs. Kearney from 3 doors down stopped in the doorway and looked at my mother. You raised a good daughter, Deb. I hope you know that. Deborah nodded once. Then she reached into her apron pocket, pulled out my letter, unfolded it, slid it across the table to Ray. He read it. The last line stopped him. I love this family, but love is not a reason to disappear. Meanwhile, I was sitting on a beach in Maui, watching the sun go down over the Pacific. Warm sand, a paperback open on my lap, phone off. I reached into my bag and pulled out my grandmother's green notebook, turned to the blank page after her last entry, uncapped a pen and wrote 4 words. Christmas 2025. 0 guests. 0 meals. First time. SB. I closed the notebook and watched the sky turn copper, then purple, then dark. Nobody was waiting for me to clear the table. Nobody was waiting for me to wrap the leftovers. Nobody was waiting at all. And for the first time in 12 years, that felt exactly like freedom. The fallout came in pieces. Melanie texted Troy the day after Christmas. I can't be with someone who treats their sister like the help. Good luck, Troy. Gene Harding mentioned Christmas at the Rotary Club. In a town like Hopewell that is not gossip, that is a news broadcast. My mother called me 1 week later. Voice careful. Rehearsed. I read the letter, Simone. I should have said something a long time ago. I said, I know Mom, and I meant both things. 2 months later, Deborah met me at a diner in Maplewood and slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check for $2,000. From Troy. Not enough, not even close. But it was a direction. And Brandt Kitchen. 3 Rotary wives called Nora for catering quotes within 2 weeks of Christmas. Henderson Manufacturing booked us quarterly. I spent 12 years cooking for free. The moment I stopped, people started asking what I was worth. If this story hit you, if you have ever been the person who did everything while someone else took the credit, share this video with one person who needs to hear it today. And if you are still sitting at that counter right now doing it all for free, it is okay to close the door. Subscribe. Because the next story on this channel is going to hit just as hard. I will see you there.